Hi there, my name is Robert Weston. I'm presenting here a short video on time block planning, or the Cliff Notes version of Deep Work by Dr. Newport. Who am I? My name is Robert Weston. I'm a mathematics educator at Clark College. Here you can see my wife Anna, my son Jack. Jack's about 3 years old now. I've been a math educator since about 2008, and I've been a Clark College mathematics faculty member since about 2015. So why would I want a time block plan? Well, let me turn that around and ask you, do you have a number of things to do each week? Do you have a limited amount of time to get things done? Do you procrastinate? Do you get distracted? Do you struggle with knowing what to do first? These are all things time block planning can help with, and a lot more. In this very short video, I'll talk about kind of the very basics of it, and I'll point to some recommended kind of videos and books and podcasts as well. You can kind of review and learn about this method, about planning your time. What is it? My description of it is a way of managing your time so that you can focus on what is important, while respecting the fact that not everything works according to plan. And I think this has been the biggest benefit for me. Is in the past my schedules have been very kind of definitive. There's no real wiggle room, and we all know life isn't like that. So I really feel like time block planning really recognizes that fact, that we can make a plan, but we have to adjust it as we go along, and it's really built into the system. So to answer the question, how do I figure out what to do each week? I think it's a good idea to kind of have a weekly kind of summary of what you're looking at. This isn't kind of built into the time block kind of plan. However, this is something I really recommend as a math educator for my students. Looking at what you have each week to do, I feel like really kind of helps you figure out what you should prioritize each and every day. So this is an example of a PDF I'm sharing here down below in the comments that you can download if you'd like to and use. But basically what this is asking you to do is complete this for kind of the week you're in, the dates you're looking at, any big goals you have, and then filling in the days kind of on the left hand side here. I'll do one here in just a second or so, but I really feel like kind of having that weekly overview can really help us figure out what we should be doing. So let me kind of scoot over, and as I do that, I'll show the actual time block planner. This is, again, Dr. Cal Newport kind of developed this method. He has this planner available for purchase. You can see I have used this in the past for the very beginning of the year or so. And yeah, this is the kind of daily plan that he has for us, and I'll talk about this in just a little bit. You can also see here I kind of made my own version of this with this little short bit here. But that weekly plan, I feel like, is a really good idea for lots of reasons. One, so that you kind of, again, know what's happening. So what I would really recommend, let's just start off, say, week, here at Clark College, we're in week 3 of the summer term. And let's just do this as if this is the Monday of week 3. So I'm going to say 7/19 to 7/25. And I'll just write Monday 7/19, Tuesday 7/20, Wednesday 7/21, Thursday 7/22, Friday 7/23, Saturday 7/24, Sunday 7/25. And so now I can kind of figure out, what do I have to do each of these days, right? I might have, a report on, say, assessment due. I might have, a lecture I need to prepare for, say, on the Friday. Lecture on, say, factoring quadratics. As a student, you may want to take out your syllabi, and then for this week, put your due dates for all of those assignments, right? Making sure that, you have those kind of all listed out from all of your different classes. I have seen students kind of use different things here. Sometimes they color code them, right? Use blue for, chemistry, purple for, psychology, and so on. That might help you kind of figure out what to do. You may also want to say stuff like, okay, on Monday, my child Jack does not have childcare. So I know this generally, right? But this is just an example of things you can put down. You could put things like your work schedule, right? If you're working, you can say, oh, I have these hours on Tuesday or Wednesday or so on. So this is, like I said, a really good thing to start with. Going back, so that's kind of the weekly overview. The next is really the daily schedule. And the daily scheduler, we're kind of using, going back and forth between our weekly schedule and our daily schedule to figure out what exactly do I have to get things done and when. So with these kind of extra sheets, it's a little kind of, hard to go back and forth, I know. But we can definitely say something like, okay, for this, we'll make this week 3, and we'll make this the Monday, the 7/19. And just to kind of do the very basics here, on the right-hand side, you have kind of this little grid here. And so I generally work from about 8 to 3. You're really going to focus on your working hours. What hours do you want to spend really kind of focused in the work that you do? You can put other hours here. It doesn't really matter which ones, as long as you kind of, that fits in your schedule, whatever that looks like. So let's say I might have a really exciting project I'm working on. So say I want to just from 8 till about 9:30 or so, I want to say I want to work on project number 1. It's really important to me. I really want to make sure I start the day with that, kind of gets moving. After that, I might want to say, all right, emails. From 10 to 11, let's say I have a meeting that I have to go to. For meetings and for class times, right? For class times, you might want to include this here. You may want to remind yourself, oh, this one is through Zoom, and you might have some other things to do here. 11 to 12, let's say I have a bunch of grading to do. Always have grading to do. From 12 to 1, I'm going to schedule myself a lunch. And going back to my kind of weekly plan, I realized, oh, that report on assessment due on Wednesday, let me kind of just give myself an hour just to start prepping some of that material, right? I'm not going to give myself like the entire time, but I'm going to at least start that then. And this is a really good idea to kind of, to start our assignments and our things that are due well before the due date themselves. This is a very common thing I think many faculty ask students. Try it before that due date, because you will then be able to say, hey, maybe I go to office hours, or maybe I go somewhere else to get some help. Excuse me. And so I'm looking at this lecture on factoring quadratics. If this is the first time I've taught a class, I might want to, really think about how, think hard about how I want to do that. So maybe I kind of spend at least just half an hour or so on research factoring quadratics. And then, let's say that last half hour, this is a very big thing in the time block planning kind of exercise, is this kind of shutdown routine. Shutdown is really important because Dr. Newport really has this idea of kind of closed loops. This is gained from other people who deal with time management, but also as a computer scientist, Dr. Newport really understands this idea of looping kind of structures, data structures. For us though, when things are kind of just up in the air and they're not clear for us, that can use a lot of cognitive resource, a lot of like brain power. So having the shutdown, this whole process will take a long time, and it depends on what you do and how you do it. But you may want to just to write everything down as tasks, right? You might want to spend that half hour just saying, okay, let me just kind of look through all the different things I need, my syllabi, my emails, maybe my work stuff, right? Maybe my family has some planning to do. And really just have a place for everything. Really write all that down. You can see here on the left-hand side, there's tasks and ideas. Um, this might be the time where you just go through all the different tasks that you have to do for the day. Speaking of that, tasks and ideas, this is also just a place to kind of put stuff when your brain is kind of wandering. You can imagine during these little blocks, you might have ideas about other things. Well, jot them down, right? Put them down here in either different tasks, actionable things you have to do, or ideas, things you could do, things you're thinking about. Write them on paper and then go back to that block, right? Really kind of commit yourself to fulfilling, yes, for that full hour and a half, I'm going to do this. I'll talk about daily metrics here at the end, but imagine we made this plan, right? We made this plan either the day before or the morning of, and I'm going on this stuff and I'm realizing I just, ran out of steam, say right here or so, right? I got to project one and now I'm saying, all right, well, let me just kind of do something else. I'm kind of, kind of tired of that. So what's great about these other columns here is when that happens and you have this kind of break, you then say, okay, well, what's the new plan? Well, the new plan, I got to write all this stuff out. I'm going to move those emails up. Can't really move a meeting at all, so I'm going to move that meeting. That just sticks right there. Grading. Maybe I kind of split this grading now. So maybe I grade here and I move that up a little bit. All right, so yeah, maybe I'm not feeling so hot on this project. Maybe I kind of take an early lunch and I get up and go. I walk. I know when I eat, I get really tired. So maybe having a walk right after I take lunch, that's a good idea. And then I'll come back to this report. And I'll do the same thing here, research, factoring, quads, and then I'll do my shutdown here. Now, this absolutely seems annoying. This seems like, gosh, I have to spend all my time figuring this stuff out again. And quite frankly, that's the point. The point of making this plan, and then once we break the plan, we have to then go back and plan everything again. This adds what's called, Dr. Newport calls this back pressure. This idea that, if we kind of have to do something kind of cognitively demanding, if we break our routine or break our schedule, we're not going to do it, right? We're going to try to fit this as best as we can. And sure, you don't have to do this. You don't have to do any of this stuff, right? And yet, how are you going to get stuff done? I think that's kind of a core question you realize, like once you start this stuff, you start asking yourself, well, why am I doing this in the first place? You have bigger goals. You don't want this to take forever. You want to learn this material. You really want to be successful in your classes. Whatever the case may be, you really have to have that core reason of why am I putting myself through this to do this, right? Why am I doing this? So again, you kind of follow this schedule again. If it breaks again, you got to make it again. Breaks a fourth time, you got to do it again. And I don't think that, half of the benefit, sure, is making the schedule and really committing yourself, right? For each of these blocks where you're really focused, you should not have, YouTube open. You should not have other stuff open. You really should be focused on that one activity, whatever that is. That's how we get the most of our brains. And again, I'll have references to other things to read about, but about this. But really, focusing is the critical thing we need to be doing for all these different tasks. This is all well and good. I think the real benefit happens when you have a whole week of these pages and you realize my project number one, taking an hour and a half, doesn't happen. Like, I don't do it. I do an hour of it and then I'm done. I peace out, can't deal with it anymore. that's something you can then use for week 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever, right? You can then say, hey, I'm going to use this information about myself to really hone in what do I want to do and when. It might seem funny to have a project first thing. You might expect emails to be the first thing. I myself, in going through all those notebooks, found that doing emails first really derailed my day. I would spend hours and hours responding to emails when I had these other big projects or grading work to get done. I think it's really critical that you have something you're really invested in want to do that might be really cognitively demanding kind of first thing in the morning. So again, if during these blocks I had things I wanted to write down and mention, tasks and ideas, daily metrics kind of connects to a bigger thing. The bigger thing being, well, daily and weekly planning happen, sure, but is that it? Unfortunately not. After that is this idea of quarterly planning. And quarterly planning, strategic planning is what Dr. Newport calls it, I think is really much more kind of, broader. It's much more thinking about what are the big things I want to get done in the next 3 months, 13 weeks, however you want to count it, in this kind of, quarter of the year time ahead of me. And so the daily metrics really connect to the goals in that, having a goal of, I want an A in this class. Well, what does it mean to get an A in a class? Well, you have to be doing assignments in that class. Well, how can I measure that? I can't really measure the A itself, but maybe I can measure the time I spend on that class, right? If I measure how much time I'm actually spending on my assignments, that will hopefully correlate to these goals happening. And that's a very tricky thing, and there's lots of resources to help with that. But that's why we would have daily metrics to figure out what are those things I can measure, right, a metric, on a daily basis that lead up, that build up towards these goals that I really want. And it's slow, right? That's a lot of something to recognize is that, this stuff takes time. And yet, in writing it down and having it prepared and ready for you, from week 1 through week 13 or whatever, you start to see like when you work best, what is good for you, what your challenges are, what things you need to really commit to. And I think that's one of the biggest benefits of all of this. Sure, it's not about time block planning per se, but it is much more about this idea that we can use, writing stuff out to really help us meet our goals. And writing stuff out is absolutely something that, Dr. Newport in his work really suggests and pushes this idea that, we can do stuff on the computer. It can all be, he mentions this could be an app somewhere. But in writing it down, there's a lot of brain kind of, physical connections we're building that are not just, on the computer virtually, no resistance. In having to write stuff down, there's resistance, right? Our body is really reacting to that. So I would absolutely recommend, obviously, the Time Block Planner. I have prepared these kind of samples as well if you'd like to use those. And then, how do I learn more? There's lots of good questions here, or good suggestions. First, the book Deep Work, I think, is a really good one. Dr. Newport has a podcast of Deep Questions. He has a blog, Study Hacks blog. And then for students specifically, there's a lot of other things here that, could be really helpful for you. He's written books titled How to Become a Straight A Student, How to Win at College, So Good They Can't Ignore You. And that's where a lot of this kind of time block planning stuff kind of came out of. So you may very well see kind of in this How to Become a Straight A Student an activity where you go through your syllabi and see what are my weekly assignments, whatever they are. Okay. Well, that's all for me. Thank you so much for watching. And if you have questions, there's my email. And yeah, look forward to talk to you all. Bye.